The worst question for any music fan of any band: what is your favorite Tom Petty album if you absolutely only could pick one? So, Doc, I'll go. I'll let you go first.
Wildflowers.
It's the correct answer, but why?
Well, I think for me it was one of those records, and for me it's the Wildflowers extended.
Yeah,
the original Wildflower was great, but I knew, because I'm in the business, I knew that there was a bunch of goodies we didn't get.
Yeah.
Right? So when I got my hand on the box set, right, then I just loved it. I also, although I don't think it's always a great fit, I think Rick Rubin is just, that collaboration with Tom, it was the right time for him to collaborate with him 100%. And so from that, as an artistic approach, that as and we play a version of Wildflowers, the song, and it's based off the alternative take that's off the box set that I came across, because I was like, oh, that's cool, let's do that, and I just think that it's him at his artistic peak. He'd been through the wars, he had a lot to say.
Yeah,
so it's Wildflowers for me.
And it's such a fertile part of his career, right? He was writing so many songs, and they were all great. And you talk about that, like it's luck that Rick Rubin comes into his life, and he was very lucky at a lot of points in his life, but he was also smart enough to recognize when those lucky doors opened. Like, Mike Campbell sitting in Randall Marsh's bedroom at Mudcrutch Farm. Hey, who's that guy playing out? Comes out and plays Johnny B. Good, and so they become together. Ron Blair leaves, and he finds Howie Epstein. So he's got this high harmony vocal, this perfect complement. It's Scott Thurston. There's so many periods in his life where Jimmy Iovine or Jeff Lynne or George Harrison, but he was one of those guys who knew, I need to make the most of this, and I need to grab onto this and make sure that I get the best out of it. So
Chris, even though it doesn't make financial sense, right? It doesn't make career sense. He's just like, I'm getting to hang out with George Harrison, who's just going to stop by Bob Dylan's house.
Just imagine, man. Oh my God.
I would go, okay, yeah, let's go to Bob's house.
Yeah. Over to you, Chris.
Well, if I had to pick one album to listen to over and over and over again, it'd be Live at the Fillmore, just because the range, and that's not really a fair answer, but just it shows the range of talent there, and the ability to play other people's songs in a way that is unique to Tom Petty. It's a remarkable accomplishment over obviously a long period of time, but it's an amazing album. In fact, Doc got me the vinyl for my birthday, which was awful nice of him.
The 6 LP, the deluxe.
No, it's it is.
It's that whole package. I mean, what the estate's done with Wildflowers and all the rest with this, I think we were talking about Mojo earlier. I think there's a Mojo set coming. I think there's something happening, because they just dropped another interview today with Ben Montench, where he was talking about listening to each other and playing and all that kind of stuff. I suspect there's a documentary or something's coming. I think. Okay. And I didn't put any caveats on this answer either, Chris. I think Film was a brilliant answer. Someone else, I think Jake Thistle picked Live Anthology for kind of the same reason. Yeah.
If not that, if I had to pick another album, because like I said, Live at the Fillmore is a little bit cheating, it'd be Damn the Torpedoes, only because to me it's like it was my introduction to Petty. I was in high school at the time. I remember the first time I heard Here Comes My Girl. It was at a time when I was dating a girl named Vicky, who was also known as Boopsy, and I wasn't really dating her. I wanted to date her. Let's put it that way. And it was like summer break, and I was hanging out with her at her parents' house in Westwood, and it was just like this magical time in my high school life when I was like, anyway, I heard that song, and that was it for me. I was hooked on Petty after that.
Yeah. And what a great song too, with that very unusual, because he says in Conversations with Paul Zollo, I just didn't know what melody to put over the verse.
Right.
So I just talked it, and it's like alive, like just the prescience to be able to do that and recognize that that's what the music needed. I mean, it's just brilliant.
Well, and it's such a different approach, that for the time, that it came out. So anyway.
So Mudcrutch or Traveling Wilburys, Chris? Which is your favorite? Not which is better. Which is your favorite?
I have to say Traveling Wilburys. I definitely want to go with that. Oh, if for no other reason than Roy Orbison, in his voice, no doubt.
I'm a Traveling Wilbury boy. I think the songs were too proto heartbreakers for me.
Okay.
The Mudcrutch stuff was too proto, like, that kind of collaboration in Traveling Wilburys is just some next level stuff that I can't wrap my head around. Like,
no,
I think of myself as a creative person, and I'm like, that's a mutant. That's an X-Man over there, and
yeah,
I'm a Muggle. So yeah,
it's one of those things that you look at and you think, there are super groups. The Highwaymen were a great super group, and there's been others like Audio Slave. You could maybe argue, but there's never been a super group that's brought together 5 individuals that had the career, the songwriting chops, the sort of ability to play together. That's never happened. Never happened before, and it's never happened since. No. And I think that, I've come to realize that Jeff Lynne is as much of the glue of that band as George Harrison was, because Jeff Lynne just knew, and again, as a producer, Doc, he just knew how to put it all together.
Oh no,
he knew how to manage it.
A mutant, another mutant, where you just kind of go, really? What? How did you?
Yeah.
And but again, also, if you're paying attention, he's feeding you. If you're paying attention, just like Tom is, just not so much Bob or Roy, but George, definitely, all of that stuff. And then just them. And then also what I do like is that Petty goes back to being a bass player.
Yeah.
In that he did in Mudcrutch, right? So he was the bass player in Mudcrutch. So, and then of course, me being a bass player, and like, where there's one of my heroes going back to his first instrument, really, because nobody else would play bass. But I always wanted to be a bass player, so that's the only difference. So,
and then he also played all the drums on Highway Companion, which blew my mind when I found that out. It's like, oh my God, anything this guy can't do. Okay, Doc, if you could join the Heartbreakers on stage for one song, what would it be? And I always ask, what instrument would you play and or sing? But you're more of a rumbler. You don't sing, so you're going to play bass. Which song are you doing?
Probably Last Dance with Mary Jane.
Just for the groove?
Yeah, the groove is cool. In our show, I'm wireless. So we have an extended solo going on. And I go out in the crowd.
Quite extended.
Well, yeah, I go out in the crowd during that and groove and dance.
I take a nap. I go backstage and I take a nap. I'm like, I'll be out when you guys are done.
You go do the Dave Lee Roth thing and just leave.
So, and I just love that. Would be, I wouldn't be, on that type of stage, you wouldn't be able to go hang out with the crowd.
Yeah.
But that's what I would like to play because of the pocket. The pocket is just the bomb.
Yeah.
Plus I kind of changed, it's a little different than Ron plays, particularly the chorus area. Then I play it a little different, a little more lyrical, caressing the melody a little more on the bass. So, nice. But the most of it pocket. So, Mary Jane.
Awesome.
I think if I could pick one song to sing, it'd probably be "It's Good to Be King."
Nice.
I love that song. It's so melodic. It's not super hard to sing, but it's super hard to sing well. And some of the lyrics are just fantastic. I mean, just to be able to sing with the Heartbreakers, when your bulldog barks and your canary sings,
that
would just be, I don't know. I just love that song.
Well, you were talking earlier about phrasing and intonation. When you bulldog, he kind of barks, he bends that vowel in there, like he's got that thing that he does.
Bulldog barks.
Yeah,
it's kind of like little bend that really does it. That really does it. But it's those subtle things in that song that make that song, right?
Yeah. Rick Rubin talked about he was talking about Wildflowers, but it's general on the album. It's a song where you listen to it and it's got an A section, a B section, it's got a bit of a bridge, it's got an intro and outro. But there are so many different moments in that song that are very musical moments that can, if you're not a musician or if you're not really paying attention, they'll just pass you by. And that's one of them, just that very specific decision to sing that one word that very specific way. It's a musical moment. And as a producer or an engineer or a player, you're listening to that and you're going to feed off it. So very, very cool.
Absolutely.
Okay, Chris, who would be your opening act at a Tom? Did you ever see the Heartbreakers live?
I've never seen Tom Petty live.
No. Well, me neither. So we're in.
But I've watched a lot of video.
4 times.
Doc's taunting us now. He's just taunting us with his 4 there.
He's just being obnoxious. And 4 times. Yeah. Right.
And my first time with Dylan.
Well, and that was what I was going to say. Is if I could have an opening act for Tom Petty, it might be Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Either that or Boston, because I love Boston. But the two are not related in any way, shape, or form. As far as
I'm trying to think. Well, I think the Heartbreakers shared a bill with Journey.
Yes,
I don't know if they ever shared a bill with Boston. I'm not too sure about that. I'd have to look at that.
I don't think so. And either that or we actually play one Lynyrd Skynyrd song based upon an experience Doc had. Where he saw a poster with Mudcrutch with opening act Lynyrd Skynyrd, right, which is kind of cool. So yeah, maybe Lynyrd Skynyrd, that would be a cool one too.
It's Petty adjacent. That's what you're saying, right?
Petty adjacent, and and then I thought about the Monkees, because the music was so fun and creative and silly at times, and some of that music is like that with Petty. It can be silly at times and then deadly serious the next minute. It just sort of brings you on that roller coaster. But anyway, that's my answer.
I always think about this too when people tell me, I'd like this band to open, then you start thinking about, well, okay, what song could Bob come out and do with the Heartbreakers, or what could the crossover go? And I always think that the Heartbreakers doing Groom Still Waiting at the Altar would be off the chart. That would be amazing. I'd love to hear that collaboration. So Doc, how about you? Who's your opening act?
For the Heartbreakers, for me, it would be, I'm a Southern rock fan.
Okay.
For me, it would be someone like 38 Special or, something like that. I like that juxtapose where it's Southern rock, pop. But the thing about 38 Special is that they're a pop rock band that was Southern rock. Not just Molly Hatchet, which was just jamming. Right. And I like Molly Hatchet, but they only had one song as far as I'm concerned.
It's true.
Where 38 Special had a bunch of songs.
Yeah.
And there could be a possibility of a super jam at the end of the night with 38 Special, where I'm not necessarily think that would be true if it was Skynyrd, because they were too busy partying.
You go with for modern day Southern, Blackberry Smoke would be a pretty cool combo too, because some of the songs that they play are songs that I could see Petty having written, like One Horse Town. That could be a Petty song.
I can see that,
and very clearly Petty influence, and I think they do a bunch of covers too, or they have done a bunch of covers of this in the time, so they share a DNA, I think. Doc, who's your favorite band member other than Tom Petty?
This, for me, it's Ben Mon, because all of the stuff he comes up with is complementary to the song and completely memorable.
Yeah,
like with to me, it was I got to work with some pretty big muckety mucks in my life, like U2 and stuff like that. And there's a thing where it talks about the difference between little art or crafts, right, and big art. is that if you take this one component out, it becomes a craft or a little art. But if you put that one component in, it becomes art, you know.
I love that. I love that.
And I think that to me is what Ben Mon, they all do it. But Ben Mon, you know, when we're rehearsing the songs, or when if the Ben Mon flavors aren't in there, I kind of go, and like I almost get giddy when our keyboard player will do something that I was like, oh, he's doing that part at the end of the song. You know.
Yeah.
You know,
like that piano riff at the end of Good to Be King.
Yeah.
That makes the song.
Right. And you know, it's funny because then, you know, it inspired me to come up with a bass part, you know, that mirrors the piano part. And so if it's not there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not, you know, yeah. So to me, those are so yeah, I would say Ben Mon for me.
Well, I mean, because Ben Mon, I mean, listen to that guy play. That guy can play stride piano. That guy can do, you know, he can play Hammond organ like an absolute MF. Like the guy can play anything. Right. But then when you listen to that piano part that he plays at the beginning of Crawling Back to You,
right,
it's this restrained, subdued, absolutely beautiful part because he understands the song because he listens. Yeah.
Well, and like in Southern accents.
Yeah.
Just that, you're right, that restraint, but totally without it, you're going, let's just go home if we don't have that. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, Ben Mon.
Absolutely. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say the same.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than, did you ever see the documentary Running Down a Dream?
Yeah.
And in that there's a scene in there where Ben Mott comes in and he's like, all you people just shut the fuck up. And he's like reading them the riot act, trying to get him back on track. And I was like, wow, you have such stones that you can go up to Tom Petty basically and tell him to rein it in. It was clear to me at that moment that he was not just a player in the band, that he was sort of part of the management, if you will, of how things got put together. Yeah. And even to the point of, of trying to, direct Tom when it came to certain parts of songs that were keyboard, forward, if you will. Yeah. So
he's one of the guys in the band who isn't interchangeable, right? I mean, you take out Ron and we find how you can manage that. You can manage the drummer changing. Ben Mont and Mike, you just can't take those out of the band.
No, you couldn't take him away, just like you couldn't take Mike Campbell away either. I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing.
Well, but the fact that Ron comes back, though, there is
what a great story.
What a great story, and what a great arc, and not, again, no dispersions, because I had that whole different headspace, right?
Yeah.
And his singing, Tom never had a better background accompanist vocally.
Totally agree.
And so to me, Ron's pocket is undeniable, and that's really what I went for me is what I went to school on. Like I got to be able to come close to that pocket, and to me, the barometer is people dancing, because people, there was a time where in the 90s and early aughts that people were saying, no one dances to rock and roll. I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
They do at my shows.
Yeah. Yeah, to me that benchmark there is when the band sings sings along, right? I mean, it's the dancing. I can tell when a crowd is into it. It makes us so much better, like you said, that contract between the band and the crowd. But when I can sing, it's all right if you love me, and then put the mic out, and there it is, and that's always an amazing moment.
One of my favorite emails is that we went to the show and it was so good, and my voice is still hoarse from singing along, and I'm like, yes,
job done.
We did our job.
Yeah, 100%. Chris, if you could go to see any Tom Petty concert from history that you weren't at, and obviously you weren't at because neither of us have seen him, which one would you pick?
The Hollywood Bowl show in September of 2017.
For obvious reasons. Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
It's a very popular choice.
Bittersweet. American Girl being the last song that he sang.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the first songs that he sang, you know, in his arc.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's, I'm getting verklempt.
I think there's also in that show that I always pick up onto is that shout out to John Scott, because John Scott sort of was the man who helped them kick everything off as well. So having that mention on I Won't Back Down to John Scott was a beautiful sort of full circle moment, which, and again, as John said, I spoke to John Scott and he said he didn't need to do that. He could have said that. He could have come up to John after the show and said, hey, thanks for everything, you know, for helping us out in the early days. But he did that in front of the crowd. I thought it was very, very cool. Very classy.
Absolutely.
How about you, Doc?
For me,
it can't be one of the ones you've seen.
Yeah, no, that's out. Yeah.
Well, the Fillmore.
Yeah.
But the whole week that they were there or whatever, that whole
all 20 dates.
Yeah. Like I would want to go every night. You know, and when you go there, you know, I've been there twice. When you go there, talk about mojo. You walk into that room, that space, and you're like, everybody's been here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's a crappy, so you know what I mean? Like, there's no whiz bang about the space.
Yeah.
You know, it's showing its age when you're in that space. But I'm telling you, it's one of the that, and I went to Sun Records.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, Sun Records in Memphis, right? This is Sun Studios.
Yeah.
And again, you walk in there and you're like, holy shit, there's something about this space.
Yeah.
Like, that's the same vibe I got at the Fillmore. Like, oh my God, this, like, you know, I'm walking on the same floor, Jimmy. I'm walking on the same floor. It's just.
It's that weight of history, right? It's the same thing would be if you walked into Abbey Road. In the big room in Abbey Road, you just think, okay, Jesus, this is where, you know, so absolutely.
Yeah. So
let's talk about Walls. Doc, Walls number 3 or Walls Circus? Which is your favorite version? I used to ask which is the best version, but that's the wrong question. Which is your favorite?
Yeah, I think we did it for the 11th and Grant.
Yeah, we did it for 11th and Grant.
Nice.
Circus, I think. I just think there's just something immediate about it, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
An immediacy.
There's also a swing to it that 3 doesn't have, which, I mean, when I wrote this question, I thought everyone was going to say 3 because that was, always was, and I think still probably is my favorite version, but most people say Circus, and a lot of people say it's because of Lindsey Buckingham and the arrangement's a bit bigger, but it's got that, it does have that because it's a slow pace, slow tempo. It's got a bit more of a swing to it. It feels different. There's that one lyric change in it that makes it a little bit different. But Chris, are you a 3 or a Circus fan?
I'm maybe it shows my lack of sophistication, but I'm a number 3.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I love both versions, and I think the way the arrangements in Circus version are amazing. But we sing the number 3 version, or we play that, and you know, I think that song in general demonstrates one of the things that I've noticed about Tom Petty's writing is his lyrics. They don't go where you expect them to go.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they go someplace different, even though the obvious rhyme is there. You know, some doors are open, some doors are locked. You know, some roads are you know, it just you know, it doesn't go where you expect it to go. It doesn't go to the obvious place. Yeah. And that's what I love about that song the most. But as far as the versions are concerned, you know, I have to go with number 3.
Deadly. So Chris, if you could pick any artist to cover any Tom, this is a tough one, but this is my favorite question now. If you could pick any artist to cover any Tom Petty song, who would it be and which song would they cover?
Jay Farrar, Sun Volt, and then he'd cover The Waiting.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that one up then because I don't know. Jay Farrar.
Jay Farrar from Sun Volt?
No.
Also, what's the other one? shoot, I can't remember his name, but yeah, Jay Farrar. Look him up. He's got a great voice. It's very different. It's very distinct. Sort of
Okay.
like, it's not like Petty's voice, but it's distinct in the same way that Petty's voice is distinct.
Cool. This is the best thing about it, because I get hip to new artists all the time in this section.
So Sun Volt is sort of Wilco adjacent, if you will. I think Jay Farrar was in Wilco for a while. Then Jeff Tweedy and him had a falling out or something. I don't know the history there, but I know there is some history.
Okay. How about you, Doc? What's your song?
Well, it's a weird one.
Weirder the better. I love the weird ones.
Yeah.
So it would be the all-star band with Prince that did My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Okay.
With Love Is a Long Road.
I like the idea of that, because you've got the same potential there for Prince to just go off on one.
Yeah, but you've got everybody on stage doing, a Who influenced Petty song, bombastic beyond the words.
Yeah.
Right. And and I have to say that, kind of getting it's interesting that they picked that for that video game, but we've played it over the years and it's always gone well, even though it's a deep cut to a lot of the surface Petty fans, but it's always gone well. And the fact that, there's a bit of the grunge, cult approach in arrangement, the way that I approach it. So it's really hard hitting the way we play, and people love it, so, and, a lot of guitar shenanigans and stuff like that.
For sure. But it's unusual too in the Petty catalog that it starts with a synth. There's not that many songs in the catalog that start that way. And it's so immediately, especially on Full Moon Fever, which it's a guitar album, it just really grabs you and it stands out from everything else because of it, I think. And I love that song. And that's one of those songs that I've loved since the first time I heard it, and I still love it just as much now, and I never get sick of listening to it. So
we've opened up with it too, because it just
great opener.
Grabs people.
Yeah, it just grabs people. All of a sudden, it's like the old adage where you'd like my grandfather, who's my namesake, Grandpa Doc, would go, well, you know what you do if you're new in the school and stuff like that, and you see a bully, just go ahead and hit him. And even if you get beat up, he's not gonna fuck with you again, right?
Put a marker down. Yeah,
right. He's just like, that's too much work, right? To me, it's like we're gonna punch everybody in the face and let's get after this. To me, that's what Love Is a Long Road is like.
Brilliant. And so then what song do you most frequently recommend to people, Doc, who don't know Tom's music? And there is a sort of an addendum that I've started to answer this question, that if you do have people in your life who don't know Tom's music, you can probably just jettison them. You probably don't need those people hanging around, right?
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's all depending on kind of like when I meet someone who, may only have one song in their playlist or something like that, and I want to kind of get them into a headspace of, this Americana, like I'll find out what they're into. Yeah. Because there's a Petty song that is adjacent to whatever type of music you love to listen to.
Totally.
So a lot of times I think the thing that I'll do, if particularly when I'm coming across, because it's in Montana and the West, I'm coming across a lot of Americana kids and stuff like that. So I'll go, I will lean into something from Wildflowers, or I'll lean into something from, the later years.
Okay.
Full Moon Fever as well. So to me, it's like that. But for me, it's if you really want to kind of get somebody into an American thing, you can't go wrong with Free Falling, right? Because it's an American story.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, and it's all these touchstones that even if that's not your experience completely, somebody that that story is talking about. That's
Yeah.
similar to that. So yeah, Free Falling is probably the go-to gateway drug.
It's probably the only song I've ever put on par with Waterloo Sunset in my mind as the most perfect pop song ever written.
Right.
With
It's kind of got
one?
that thing that Waterloo Sunset by the Kinks.
Oh yeah.
Which to me is just, that's my, you know, if I want to go into the ground or go into the fire, that's what I want playing, is Waterloo Sunset. But Free Falling, and maybe listen to A Heart Falls in the same bracket, where you think, I don't know, there's not a single note you could or would change in either of those songs or any of those songs to make it any better. So that makes it a perfect pop song, I think, right? So Chris, how about you?
I mean, I think it would depend on the person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they have and what their level of sophistication is, you know, in terms of like, I mean, if I was just going to get somebody into Petty, I'd probably want them to listen to two songs. One would probably be Change of Heart, which I just think is a fantastic early pop song.
Yeah.
That Petty wrote, that is catchy, and it sort of defines the sound that he had back then. And then I'd probably make them listen to something from Echo or, you know, Angel Dream, you know, just to give them the range, and then let them do their own thing in terms of like walking down that path, because it's a long path and there's a lot of stops along the way. Right. So, you know, I think
we have.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
I think in our, with a little bit of notice, that around 45 Petty songs that we can draw upon.
Yeah.
You know, and I think always adding more, you know, hence, you know, I'm blocking the song he wants me to learn right now, but
come on, man.
I'm just kind of having fun. I mean, the other thing too is that, you know, I do want to kind of say this, is that really after coming out of the pandemic and stuff like that, and we got signed to Atomic Music Group, which is out of Nashville and LA, booking company. That now going into 2024, we're really focused on not building a fan base as much as performing for fairs and casinos and festivals, and, you know, instead of trying to build something about coming and celebrating something.
Yeah.
I think it's a different headspace than we were before. And now with this PBS show episode that we're doing, you know, that's coming out, and they've given me the permission to put out singles from the show, and we're thinking about doing vinyl of the show.
I mean, I'll pre-order, I'll crowdfund, whatever you want me to do.
So I think we're going to do, once, you know, all the paperwork is signed, that we're probably going to do a GoFundMe to pay for the vinyl.
Yeah.
And so that, and then to get our fans and friends who, you know, would like to have that, you know, that piece, and then of course sell them at the, but the fact that they were like, go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
And again, in the celebration of Petty, not, you know, and then giving somebody something to hold on to.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
To end our conversation, Chris, describe Tom Petty in 3 words.
Well, I mean, I was tempted when I saw that question, just go fucking amazing songwriter, you know, but I would say inspired, relatable, and generational, in the sense that it just covers such a spectrum of humanity. Those are my 3 words.
Love it. What do you, Doc, to finish?
Master American songwriter. For me, that's, you know, everything that is great about America shows up in Tom Petty's art.
Yeah.
And so for me, being, you know, an American mutt, right, it speaks to me on every level. I'm a Southern boy. And so, you know, so much so that my mom, when I would come back from visiting my relatives down south, one year she said, that's it. I'm taking you to speech therapy because you're speaking too Southern. So there was a period of time where you could be a Southern boy too much, that, if you wanted to kind of move through the world. And he never lost that. Right. And it's one of the reasons I love that we got to do Southern accents. It just meant so much to me. And that song encapsulates so much about, the American experience. And all of his songs have this. He's not a British guy. He's not a Parisian. He's not, he's an American kid from the South who happened to knock one out of the park in Los Angeles. And it never felt like he bought into the LA thing.
Yeah.
Well, and he celebrates, in his own way, he celebrates the American experience, warts and all.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what Free Fallin' is all about, in my estimation. I mean, it's just a fantastic homage to America, his songwriting.
Right.